Yeah, I think that's definitely true. Like when Lisa Royal Holt in her books, she talks about the contact experience with ETs. She's like in the movies and in media, what you're going to see is a ship landing and somebody, an alien walking out of the ship, and you walk up to the alien and you shake hands. I mean, that's kind of the idealized version of contact. And she's like, it's not like that at all. You know, contact is getting in touch with deeper aspects of yourself from within.
Hmm.
And it's such a like mind twist because you start to realize that in order to have contact with these beings who are at higher dimensional frequencies, we have to raise our own frequency, which means we've got to work on those things inside of ourselves that aren't integrated yet. Like what parts of my shadow am I not loving or recognizing, or parts of myself? And so in contact, you're faced with yourself. You know, it's not a reaching out for someone else to save you. It really is a reaching within to try to find more of your own natural wholeness and natural state. Like you said, you know, we are being consciousness and bliss. It's just we forgot, you know, so we're remembering with every, you know, with every moment more and more of who we naturally are, not who we were fed to believe we are.
Yeah, the remembering is such a key word lately. It's like, you know, when Osiris was killed by his brother Set multiple times, and finally he had to like cut him into pieces and spread him everywhere. And then Isis, Anubis, and Nephthys went and found all the pieces and put them back together. They're remembering, and like his member was missing, but they fashioned something, and then they were able to, you know, Isis was able to conceive Horus, and then Horus was like kind of like the Christ type figure that brought balance and stability and the higher unity consciousness to a land that was being ruled by someone that was, you could call a narcissist, that was focused more on the negative things and what he didn't have and what he thought he deserved, rather than appreciation for what is there and being able to see more. And I think that's the journey we're all on, is like, can I surrender and feel what's there and accept it and be with it, so that it can shift and change into the very thing I've been longing for, which is the paradoxes. This emotion that seems so overwhelming and so horrible, and I need to drink it away, or I need to go for a run to get rid of it, or I need to watch a movie, or I need to find a healer or a shaman or somebody, or do some ayahuasca, and then everything's going to be better. But it's like, no, it just keeps coming back, and to be integrated, and we get that power and that wholeness once again. And it's kind of raw for a while. It's been my experience. It's like that you invite the child to come back, and it's on your lap, and you're walking out into the world, and there's this vulnerability, like, I need to protect them. And it's like, no, it'll be fine, because we're not going to beat up on him anymore, or her, when something happens. And I think that was what my process was, is I was, you know, beating up on my kid, basically my internal kid that was like upset and scared. I'm like, don't be scared. Don't let them see that.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody see that, or they're going to get more of it. And now it's like, you know what? It's okay. It's okay if someone sees me like not super confident and strong and projecting this strength out. And really that turns people off. They see right through it. But I didn't know that, you know? And so coming to Hawaii helped me learn like strength, masculine strength in a feminine way. Like it's, the energy is very like feminine here, but it's strong. It's really strong. And you see it in the people that have lived here and have embodied the aloha and the grounding and the, like the ocean, very soft and embracing, but also like very strong. And like, yeah, you don't push, you don't try to dominate, because you can't.
Yeah.
You know? So that's
a great
been my
metaphor.
experience anywhere, is integration at its finest. You know, it's integrating the heart. And there's still stuff that comes up because we're human.
Yeah, I really liked what you said in the beginning about being careful not to like someone's a narcissist in your life and then you just label them as such, and you don't really see what else is going on, like what happened to them. Like I can easily relate to that because of my dad. I could easily call him a narcissist or a sociopath or something like that. But if I didn't peel back the layers and investigate and ask questions to see what actually was going on in his childhood and the way he grew up, I would be missing parts of my ancestral story, parts of my history, and where we even came from after we got off the boat from Italy, and what life was like as an immigrant in the United States, and trying to make it, trying to live in a different country, not knowing the language. What are your survival skills that you're taking on? So if I just labeled him and walked away and blamed him for all my pain and suffering, I would be missing a massive part of my history and my ancestry. And, the story goes on from there. Well, what about his dad and his mom? And, and further and further. And I still have yet to go deep back into Italy, at least on that side of the family. My family is mostly Italian. So there's a piece of it that's Hungarian. But if I were to investigate anything first, it would definitely be the Italian side of things, because that's a huge chunk of it. So, you don't want to miss pieces of yourself in an effort to shun off. I don't know if the word is shun, responsibility for taking care of your own needs and stuff, just because you want to blame someone, because it's the learned way. It's the learned way out, is to blame somebody else for our problems.
Yeah, it's easier, and sometimes it's helpful to do that at first, and but come around to the heart again, and to see, like you said, the deeper story, the deeper truth, and how we're responding to it. And responsibility is the ability to respond, to be responsive in the way that we choose, rather than just the way that's programmed or the way it's to be expected. And there's always someone there to support that reaction that goes with what's to be expected. And that's good segue with the Galactics is just because a being shows up that is extra dimensional and seems all knowing and powerful doesn't necessarily mean they got your best interests at heart. That's the thing. It's to still use discernment, and not to try to project this authority, it's a God, it's something that's going to help me and save and rescue me. Ideally they show up as an equal, as a guide, rather than something to be worshipped and to blindly follow. And anytime we're getting too much guidance that's saying, do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that, it's kind of a red flag for me. Well, wait a minute. Okay. Generally there's an openness to us experiencing what we choose, and the guidance is available, rather than directly being guided, which is frustrating, because I'm often at least with my guides, they don't just tell me, yeah, do this. And sometimes they give me information like that, but often it's crickets. It's what do I do with this? What's going on? What's happening? And it's well, it's part of my journey to experience it and go along with it and not have too much revealed.
Yeah, actually, that's a really important point. Lisa brings that up a lot in her books, Lisa Royal Holt, but she basically says, if the Galactics are working with you, or when you're aware that, they're working with you, or you're wanting contact, the number one thing they're trying to get us to understand is that we're equals. And you said that. And they want us to be empowered. They want us to be sovereign. They want us to have a co-creative relationship. What they're saying is we're still treating them as our parents. They're not our parents. They're not an authority figure. Basically, they're just helping us on the evolutionary path, just like they had to do as they were ascending. And one of the ways that we raise our own vibration and frequency is by becoming empowered, by understanding ourselves, by being clear with our boundaries, by learning how to be sovereign, and the ability to make our own decisions and use our own discernment. It's not about giving our power up to them, not at all, ever. In fact, the thing they emphasize the most is the reason there's still a lot of fear. It's almost like they're looked at as parental figures or authority figures. So people are fearing, what will they do to me? When again, that goes back to movies and media and the way it's portrayed. They're portrayed through those channels.
Yeah, because there's a lot of power there And we haven't always had a good experience with those that have power and how they wield it.
Yeah.
And so anytime someone's willing to share it means a lot, you know, when they're not making it about them and they have the opportunity to take advantage and they don't. And so like in the therapeutic world, a lot of training around what you do and don't do with clients. And it can be rather restrictive, but there's certain things, generally everybody can agree with, is like, you don't sleep with your clients, you know, and even if it's been 2 years, they say don't ever have a relationship with your clients, because there's been like a power differential that's created there just naturally. And especially in that industry, it's kind of set up that way because you have credentials and everything else and you're going for the help. But in any teacher relationship and any kind of like, even going to these ceremonies that people lead, there's this projection of like, oh, this is the person, and look how many people follow them, and they know so much, and they know way more than me, or whatever comes up, and they're just so great. You know, celebrity's a good example of that too. But it's just people, and they don't necessarily know any more or less than us, and so it's always refreshing when you see someone in power that's going to share that and treat you as an equal rather than a subordinate, or needing you to be a certain way for them. And, you know, that's again, the narcissist thing will need you to be a certain way for them to feel comfortable. And that's our indication, like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't something I want to stay with, and start setting boundaries and see what happens with that person. And noticing what it brings up in us as we set those boundaries. Same with like energetic beings and energies around us, as we set boundaries and breathe. How is that responded with? You know, what comes at us after that? And because it's all there for our healing and our growth. And I think there's a lot of need for ego discernment, like what's in our head and what's actually happening from our heart, from a place of presence. That's a lot of what we talked about in the Ascension community I was in.